If you, like so many of us, feel like you're constantly navigating just these really complex relationship dynamics or professional systems, even online community spaces that just demand so much of your energy, then the source material we are diving into today is, well, it's essentially a radical roadmap for self-preservation. This is really about finding clarity in all that chaos.
That's so right. We are unpacking excerpts from Nisa Pasha, who is an executive political health guru, peer counselor, and educator.
That's quite a title.
It is, and it might sound complex, but what it signals is that Nisa works right at the intersection of, policy, systemic dynamics, and personal advocacy.
Okay.
And that gives us a really unique lens. It moves beyond standard self-help to explore what they call political health.
Political health.
Yeah, meaning the power dynamics and the ethical governance of our personal lives and our communities.
So this isn't just about feeling better. It's about having a functional system for how you interact with the world. Our mission today is to deeply unpack two critical and I think often misunderstood concepts from this work: lawful isolation and passive projection. We're really approaching them as tools, practical, legally grounded strategies for maintaining your well-being, your autonomy, and your ability to function without, constant exhaustion.
And the central premise that anchors this entire deep dive is, well, it's a revolutionary one for modern life, I think.
Which is?
That growth doesn't always come from constant engagement. Sometimes the most potent personal progress, the deepest healing, it actually comes from lawful disengagement.
Opting out.
Exactly. We need to understand the source's argument for why opting out is sometimes the highest form of self-governance.
Okay, let's unpack this then. The author reflects on a period of intense disruption, calling it a year of recalibration. This isn't just a tough year, right? It sounds more like a forced reset that led to a profound internal shift.
It was a necessary reassessment, a kind of forced discernment. I mean, for many people, especially those navigating environments where they're dependent on systems.
Like what kind of systems?
Well, the author notes things like accessing mental health or disability services disruption forces you to stop and evaluate the true cost of your participation.
Right.
The core lesson extracted was learning to clearly distinguish what genuinely supports your well-being and your right to self-determination from what actively undermines it through, well, demanding way too much.
And I think the key distinction the source makes here is this shift from viewing self-protection as simple avoidance.
Like sticking your head in the sand.
Yeah, exactly. To reframing it as conscious self-governance.
Absolutely. The author rejects that common narrative that choosing not to participate in harmful or destabilizing dynamics means you're weak or you're avoiding responsibility. It's the opposite.
It's an active choice.
It's a powerful assertion of self-governance. It is recognizing that you, the individual, have the fundamental right to curate your environment, your energy, and your interactions.
And if we connect that to you, the listener, it's such a powerful validation. It reinforces the idea that, you don't have an obligation to participate in every conversation or every environment.
And critically, not every environment deserves your access.
Right. Access to your time, your vulnerability, your resources. This deliberate, proactive choice, which the source calls maintenance, is what provides the clarity and stability you need for long-term health.
I mean, when you move from perpetual reaction to proactive assertion, you reclaim power. You're saying, I choose what I consume and what I contribute to.
It flips the whole script.
It shifts the entire dynamic from passively surviving external pressure to intentionally designing your own sustainable structure.
So if self-governance is the underlying philosophy, then lawful isolation is the specific method the source gives us to actually do it.
That's right.
Let's move to the centerpiece of this discussion. It's a term that sounds, a little stark, maybe. So we really need that precise definition the source provides.
It is precise, and that precision is absolutely critical. Lawful isolation refers to the intentional, ethical, and legal decision to limit or remove contact with people, places, or situations that consistently cause harm, destabilization, or repeated boundary violations.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, we should think of lawful isolation not as like slamming a door in an emotional outburst.
No.
But as ethically and legally installing a very high, very well-maintained fence around your personal space. It's a strategic pause button backed by a clear right to privacy and safety.
That's a perfect analogy, and I really have to clarify what it is not because that term can so easily be misconstrued.
Okay.
The author insists that lawful isolation is emphatically not punishment, it's not rejection, it's not hostility, or some form of antisocial behavior. It is simply the recognition that you have the right to self-preserve.
So what it is then is the affirmative statement of fundamental rights. The right to privacy, the right to consent, and the freedom from harassment, coercion, surveillance, or unwanted attention.
And that distance is taken while maintaining ethical conduct and adherence to the law.
Now, you mentioned something earlier about the specific audience for this.
Yes, this concept is incredibly significant when we consider the core audience the author addresses: consumers and disabled adults. The source makes this staggering observation that this population is often expected to tolerate behaviors that others would not.
Wow. That is the crucial context, isn't it?
It is.
The sort of implicit societal pressure to remain accessible to interactions or behaviors that would be immediately shut down in a mainstream professional or personal environment.
It's the pressure to be cooperative above all else.
Above your own well-being.
Precisely. And this is why lawful isolation becomes such a necessary defense mechanism and, frankly, an assertion of inherent worth. Choosing this path is a way of declaring your autonomy. It's saying, I do not have to remain accessible to what harms me in order to be considered cooperative, compliant, or worthy of care.
It's powerful.
It allows the individual to step out of those toxic high-demand dynamics while maintaining their self-respect and their legal standing.
But for the listener who is maybe facing a difficult personal dynamic, like a challenging family member or a persistently intrusive former colleague, how is lawful isolation really different from just avoiding their calls or blocking them?
Good question.
Where does the lawful part come in?
That's the key distinction. Avoidance is reactive. It's often driven by overwhelm, and it doesn't solve the core boundary issue, right?
It's just a temporary fix.
Lawful isolation is proactive, and it's grounded in the recognition of your rights. It often involves clear communication, even if that communication is simply stating that further contact will be limited. And sometimes it involves legal or systemic documentation.
Like what?
Like changing service providers or utilizing workplace policies. It's about creating a documented, intentional, and ethical framework for that disengagement. That's why the author stresses its legality and ethics, not just the emotional need for space, it's professional self-protection.
That reframes boundaries entirely. It moves us from just emotional management to rights management.
Yes.
And that structure of boundaries leads us directly into the second critical concept the author unpacks: passive projection, and the insidious ways it undermines those very boundaries.
And here's where we move from the external action of setting a boundary to understanding the internal, often veiled, psychological intrusion that made the boundary necessary in the first place.
Okay, so what is it?
Passive projection occurs when individuals or systems unconsciously or indirectly place their unresolved emotions, beliefs, fears, or behaviors onto others.
So someone else's internal mess becomes my external problem.
That's a great way to put it, but they deliver it through veiled actions, not direct confrontation.
So you can think of it as like invisible psychological static.
Yeah.
You know the air is thick, but you can't quite see the source of the noise.
Exactly. And the source details how this manifests and why it is so confusing and destabilizing for the person on the receiving end.
Why is it so hard to deal with?
Because it lacks open confrontation, it's incredibly hard to identify and challenge directly. It shows up as insinuation.
Those little side comments.
Yes, those little comments meant to throw you off.
Yeah.
Or assumptions being treated as facts, indirect communication, persistent monitoring of your activities, or just repeated attention that crosses clear lines.
You feel the scrutiny.
You feel the scrutiny, the confusion, and the emotional burden, but trying to address it often makes you look like the one who's overreacting.
And the consequences are substantial, I imagine,
Mm.
because these projections, they must distort your reality. They erode trust and place immense psychological strain on the recipient.
This contributes significantly to anxiety, hypervigilance, confusion, and emotional exhaustion, the classic signs of being managed or watched rather than respected.
Right.
When you're constantly trying to decipher veiled hostility or manage someone else's unacknowledged issues, your capacity for healthy engagement just plummets.
The source provides such a specific, almost forensic framework for understanding how these psychological intrusions travel. I love this term. Passive trajectories.
Yes, the channels of intrusion.
Let's break down the 3 examples provided, because they make the abstract very, very concrete.
Okay, we can start with people. These are the individuals. So think of a colleague who spreads rumors by asking concerned questions.
Oh, I know that one. Is everything okay? I just heard.
Exactly. Or someone who keeps sending you resources about a problem they think you have, rather than discussing their own issues. Their engagement is based on projection and assumption, not on a genuine consensual connection.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Then there are places.
Right. These are environments where unhealthy behaviors just become normalized into the atmosphere.
It's in the air.
It is. The source identifies these as places where surveillance, rumor mills, or monitoring systems are just part of the culture. If you've ever been in a workplace or community group where every discussion seems to require defensive posturing because trust is non-existent, that environment is a passive trajectory. The place itself transmits the anxiety.
And finally, the third one is things.
This is often the most modern and, frankly, the most insidious channel. Technology, systems, routines, or objects used to maintain attention or control without consent.
So, like what? A work tracking system.
It could be a tracking system designed for monitoring rather than efficacy, or even persistent, unsolicited digital contact, repeated DMs or emails, that maintains proximity and attention without true permission. The object or the system becomes a mechanism for psychological intrusion.
So understanding these channels, that's key to the overall theme of integrity. And this brings us back to that shift from constantly reacting to proactive maintenance.
Yes.
The author insists that we have to clearly name the behaviors we're observing, because they are not just misunderstandings that can be resolved with a quick chat.
Exactly. The source draws a clear, necessary line. Passive aggression and stalking behaviors are not gray areas. They are violations of autonomy and safety.
So passive aggression
Relies on indirect hostility, delivering venom through insinuation.
and stalking behaviors.
In the definition the author uses, they rely on unwanted, persistent attention that strips away a person's privacy and their right to disconnect. When these behaviors are normalized, they destroy both individual wellness and community integrity.
This moves us into what I think is the most actionable section of this deep dive, maintenance. The author's focus is so clear. Maintenance means being absolutely intentional about consumption.
And the source provides this beautiful, broad definition of consumption, not just food, but information, environments, relationships, and obligations. Consumption is participation.
Wow, that's a powerful idea.
Isn't it? It forces you to view everything you allow into your life. A toxic news feed, a draining weekly obligation, a gossipy friendship as a form of participation in that dynamic.
If you consume the chaos, you participate in the chaos.
You got it.
So proactive maintenance is all about curating that input. It's taking an inventory of those streams. Where are you unintentionally consuming obligation? Where are you consuming fear or rumor or indirect hostility? It requires building the structure that supports sustainability rather than just survival.
And that structure involves organization and forward planning, education about your rights, clear communication of your needs, financial responsibility that buys you distance, and thoughtful use of your time and energy.
It means moving past that frantic day-to-day survival mode.
And creating a framework that can absorb inevitable stressors without destabilizing your entire life.
And this emphasis on integrity, it extends outward to the community itself, doesn't it?
It has to. Healthy peer communities, according to the source, rely on lawful conduct and respect for autonomy. They rely on people not placing their passive projections onto others.
They can't thrive on intrusion or rumor or what the author calls coercive proximity.
They can't, because that atmosphere demands hypervigilance from its members. The maintenance of the self and the maintenance of a healthy group are intrinsically linked.
So if you, the listener, are constantly being pressured to tolerate boundary violations,
then the environment is fundamentally unhealthy, regardless of its stated mission.
and this is where lawful isolation circles back as the ultimate tool for that maintenance. It interrupts harmful patterns, not by forcing a loud emotional confrontation that just fuels the reaction.
No, it sidesteps that entirely.
It does it by removing access. You step out of the harmful dynamic while fully maintaining your integrity and your legal standing. You protect your nervous system, which the source notes is absolutely key to maintaining clarity and capacity for healthy relationships later on.
So, to synthesize the core knowledge points for you, lawful isolation is protective self-governance. It allows for ethical disengagement from destructive forces.
And passive projection.
Is indirect psychological intrusion, often delivered through veiled communication and invasive channels. And then intentional maintenance. That's the continuous focus on sustainable wellness, achieved through careful consumption and boundary setting.
It's really powerful material because it shifts the entire conversation around self-care from something soft and optional to something strategic and legally grounded.
It really does.
Your rights to privacy and safety are non-negotiable,
Yeah.
and the source provides the language to assert that fact.
Absolutely. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it leaves us with the strong concluding thought that Nisa Pasha offers, which is a powerful message for anyone attempting to build a safe life. Lawful isolation and ethical boundaries are not barriers to genuine connection. They are the necessary conditions for safe, healthy participation. Without them, what we often mistake for connection is actually just compliance under surveillance. You deserve the condition where genuine connection can truly flourish.